I grow indoor plants and keep them around the house, whether by the kitchen window or out on the front porch. I have a variety of plants like lily, aloe vera, also flowers, and they all require care and attention. It's a hobby of mine, and because I don't own enough space, I just stick to indoor planting. I have a 16-year-old stepson Sean who loves to pull all kinds of pranks and has been trying some weird prankies on me lately. I don't mind it as long as he's happy, and also because nothing is too serious, just hiding my farming tools and replacing them with damaged ones and so on. He just keeps messing around like any other kid. Days ago, he posted a Facebook video of him spraying cold water on me when I was sleeping. It was embarrassing since he shared it with family. I got mad at him and had him deleted, despite him begging me to let him keep it. He kept sulking afterwards and had his mom try to convince me to let him repost the video, but I thought that was crazy request. Sean suddenly became friendly and asked if he could water my plants. I was glad he asked and gave him the watering can and told him to start with the plants in the kitchen. He was gone for a few minutes, then he got back and started watering all the plants in the house. Later in the evening I was cleaning my tools and there was a weird smell coming from the watering can. It smelled like bleach. I freaked out and checked my plants and the same smell was coming from them. I confronted Sean and asked what he watered the plants with. He acted dumb and said nothing, but I found a bottle of bleach in his room which made me lose my temper. He admitted watering my plants with bleach to get back at me for making him remove the video. I was mortified. I immediately cancelled the weekend trip to the national park that he was looking forward to. He started crying, saying it was too much and he made a mistake in a moment of clouded judgment. I refused to discuss it. My wife feels bad. Sean hasn't been eating well since I cancelled the trip, but he damaged my plants and caused me hurt and pain. She thinks an apology was enough. He is a kid and made a mistake. She wanted me to let it go, but I said cancelling the trip is his official punishment. I got called unreasonable and stubborn for this, and that I don't respect her as a parent too, and said taking away the only thing he cares about the most and look forward to the most reeks of abuse. Sean has this mentally that if he admits doing something wrong, then he'll be forgiven. This isn't how it should be, but his mother thinks admitting to it and apologizing should be the end of it. Not the idiot, but your stepson is. His mother needs to stop making excuses for him. He is 16 years old and she needs to stop enabling his bad behavior. You reacted much better than I would have. He has no respect for you or your possessions. You shouldn't apologize and don't go on the trip. Stand your ground and teach him the lesson that crappy actions have crappy consequences. At 16, he knows better. He knew what he was doing and thought he'd get away with it as usual. Instead of going on the trip, have a family meeting where you set boundaries with both your stepson and his mother. Not the idiot. 16 isn't a child, really. You may be in the US, but in the UK you can marry with your parents' consent, legally make love, join the army, start driving lessons, etc. He isn't 12. He knew the video was embarrassing and posted it without consent. Will he do that to someone he dates too? He doesn't accept, you don't consent. He needs to learn these concepts and boundaries. He then gets angry, can't control it, and pours bleach on your plants to kill them. He knows they will die. Not only should he not go on holiday, he needs to repay you in full value for your plants and materials. Not the idiot. There are consequences for every action he on purpose caused damage to your belongings to cause you pain. There are consequences for those actions there as you cancel the up and coming trip, as this behavior should not be rewarded. He didn't just pull a harmless prank, he intentionally did something to hurt you, and it sounds like he planned it out. Your wife needs to see that this behavior is concerning and that he doesn't just get a pass because he is a kid who is closer to adulthood than toddlerhood. I'm 49 and I have a son, 21, and his girlfriend, 21. His girlfriend is pregnant, and because they are in a rough patch, both of them also dropped out of school. I've been helping them out with money. For the most part, I like his girlfriend well enough, but she's been a bit overbearing during this pregnancy. Not that I really blame her. The day they came over, and his girlfriend decided to give a list of do's and don'ts to my husband and I if we wanted to have contact with their child. The list was mostly reasonable: have all medicine stuff, don't swear around the baby, handle baby with care, don't show up unannounced, etc. Some of them were a bit overbearing. When a baby is older, no tickling or sweets, no cartoons, no baby talk, etc. I took issues with this for two reasons. It seems insulting and condescending. Some of the items on the list are things we would never do. We're also not anti-vaxxers. It feels like she was pretty much assuming the worst of us. Of course we wouldn't swear like a sailor around a child. And we always call before we visit, they show up unannounced more than us. Some of the items on the list are extreme. I understand that these are her rules and how she plans to raise the baby, but the idea that I would lose access to my grandchild because I baked cookies with them is extreme, and I don't want to walk on eggshells or go through the hurt of losing my grandchild. Especially since I feel like it's the grandparent's job to spoil the child, within reason, of course. To clarify, I understand how these requirements could be necessary. If we weren't suited to be around children, I would understand. So in response, I said fine, but now here's a list of requirements to receive financial support. In the past, we've always trusted them and given them a monthly allowance. As long as we didn't think they were deceiving us or blowing money or asking for even more, we let them do what they will with the money. So I added the stipulations like wanting to see their budget to ensure they didn't 1. Eat out, 2. Buy unnecessary clothing, 3. Didn't go to hair salons instead of barbers, 4. Had to spend a certain amount on the baby, 5. Didn't buy hobby-related stuff etc. And finally, financial support would be lost if we were to be denied access to the baby. There were more stipulations, but I'm sure you get the point. I made this list and gave it to both of them in exchange for the list of the baby requirements. Both my son and his girlfriend were upset with this. I said that previously I had trusted them, but since you didn't trust us, we wouldn't trust them. I also told them how disrespectful I thought they were for giving me a list when they rely on my husband and I for support. His girlfriend said I wouldn't be able to see the baby. I told them they could leave. My husband and I are both conflicted over this, and I'm wondering if I overreacted. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They aren't entitled to your money just as you aren't entitled to their child. Harsh and not meant that way. That said, you really hit it on the head when you said that they were acting like you couldn't be trusted and needed rules regarding use of the baby. I think your reaction was tempered and fair. Here are my rules regarding the use of my money. Asking for an accounting is more than fair. People are going to say you are tit for tat, but frankly they disrespected you by the rules. Sorry, but you are the idiot. Sad to see all these comments about how your awesome power move. Your son and his girlfriend are super young first-time parents in a vulnerable position. You're a parent with way more life experience. Presumably, you love your son and will love your grandchild and want them in your life. Rather than take this as a teachable moment to talk about your son and his girlfriend's fears and rules, you dropped down to their level and retaliated. Very immature, petty, and an unnecessary escalation of conflict. Everyone's the idiot here. It sounds like everyone just needs to calm down and talk it out. It's understandable she wants boundaries, but no contact over an infringement is ridiculous. And then continuing with your own list was unnecessary, as it just escalated the situation. Sit down and talk. Say you'll respect the boundaries, but if you mess up like all humans do, you expect to talk it out rather than lose contact. Voice your concerns about certain aspects of the list and come to a compromise. My sister's boyfriend Derek has been staying at our house since March. It has honestly been one of the worst things about never being able to leave the house. I didn't even meet him before my parents allowed him to stay with us. They met him when they visited her at college. He's really freaking grating, always thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and is honestly just annoying as hell. He is not polite, never offers to do any chores or dishes or anything. Just a complete loser. I don't get what my sister sees in him. Usually when I would watch something with my mom and dad, we would all kind of make comments about what was happening, or whatever. But early on during his stay, Derek said this was too distracting, and he needed for focus. I vented a little to my mom about Derek, including his need for dead silence when watching TV, and she said that she understood that it was frustrating, but that we needed to make him comfortable as a guest. I was good at this until last night. We were watching Molly's game, and I was enjoying it. Maybe an hour in, during a transition from one scene to another, I asked my dad to pause it so I could go to the bathroom. And immediately after, Derek looks at me, puts his finger over his mouth, and literally loudly shushes me like I'm a 2-year-old. For just asking to pause the movie. I got beyond pissed off and was like, hell this, I'm not watching the movie with him. I just freaking can't do it. Maybe it wasn't exactly that, I don't remember, because I was so angry, but it was something like that. I didn't personally insult him, though. My mom calls after me, but I just go to the bathroom and then my room. My sister texted me that I was behaving like a freaking idiot and I texted her back that her boyfriend was a freaking tool. My mom came into my room later and said that she understood why I felt the way I felt, but that I need to apologize to Derek. I said I wouldn't because I don't think I did anything wrong. Anyway, now I'm in bed and dreading facing them, so I probably won't leave my room all day, but I need to know if am I the idiot here. Not the idiot. So many people don't seem to understand that respect is a two-way street, not to mention when you're living for free in someone else's home, if you're not actually going to be a decent enough person to help around the house, the least you can do is step on as little toes as possible. I'm not sure why he's living with you to begin with, if living at his own place is a possibility. A pandemic isn't the time to find out whether these sorts of living dynamics work if it's avoidable. You are the idiot, just the way you describe him, and the fact that everyone in the house appears to agree you are out of line. Your description of the whole incident makes it seem like you just don't like the guy and take offense to his existence. Seems more like this was a minor incident and you let days or weeks worth of disdain blow up all at once over a small gesture. Then instead of apologizing, you continue to hold a grudge and stare him down like a wild animal in the hallway. Yeah, not the idiot. I don't buy your mother's need to make him comfortable as a guest pass. He needs to learn some manners as a long-term guest, pull his weight, and not make stupid demands. The fact that your mother came in and said she understood why you felt that way, but that you owe Derek an apology. No. He owes you an apology. It sounds like your mom is trying to keep the peace in a non-productive way. I don't understand why in the world he's spending quarantine at you all's house anyway, but whatever the reason, he needs to learn some manners. I'm so frustrated by this. I've gained a little weight through the pandemic. Stress eating, less active, etc. I'm 5.1 and 145, so I have a good 40 pounds I could lose. I was roughly 125 to 130 before this all happened without issue. My husband made a point to say we'd both put on some weight and could do with a change. Since I'm the one who does most of the cooking and grocery shopping, I started making some healthy swaps in our meals. It's the stuff you'd expect. Instead of just rice to go with a stir fry, I do half rice and half cauliflower rice. Instead of just potatoes for mashed potatoes, I'd swap half for cauliflower and then tinker with the dairy involved as well. Greek yogurt for anything it can be swapped for, etc., etc. I figured this was perfectly acceptable because I hadn't heard a complaint. In fact, he enjoyed all of it. I've started seeing the scale go down. The other day, he came in while I was making fried rice to go with a stir fry and he saw me grating the cauliflower. He asked what it was for and I told him I used it to swap out some of the rice. He acted like I was poisoning him. He got so upset when I talked more about the things I swap out. He acted like it was this epic betrayal of unparalleled proportions. I told him that, if it bothers him that much, I'll set aside a portion for him before I make any swaps. This wasn't enough for him, because what if there are leftovers, and you shouldn't be doing this to begin with. In the end, I told him that I'm going to just continue doing what I'm doing, and if he has such a problem with it, he can start making his own meals, and said, bluntly, you're acting like a freaking child. He's been pouting like a little idiot and making passive-aggressive comments about being so hungry and all that. Am I the idiot? Your husband literally said you could both do with a change to eat healthier. So you made a change yourself. You probably should have discussed with him what changes you could make instead of just making them, but his freaking out and getting whiny about it is unnecessary. And I find it rich that he tells you you're acting like a child when he's the one throwing a fit over cauliflower and other subs. It's not like you fed him something he's allergic to or has a moral objection to. Maybe try quinoa instead. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. There is nothing wrong with the meals that you're making. He even enjoyed them until he learned that he was eating vegetables. He specifically asked you to make dietary changes for weight loss, and you did. If he doesn't want to eat that food, you should stop making such large portions and only make enough for yourself. Being married doesn't mean that you have to cook for one another or eat together. He's capable of arranging his own meals that fit his dietary needs. Plenty of married people cook their own meals and eat different diets from one another. Not the idiot, it sounds very fair to me. Cooking one healthy meal makes sense. It sounds like he didn't notice changes in the food until he saw you cooking it. What's to stop him having some bread and butter on the side to increase the fat and satiety levels if he wants more? You suggested a good compromise by leaving half and doing a health swap with half. Why can't he have healthy leftovers? He could put them on toast, or, again, what's wrong with bread on the side if he wants it to have more heft? I think he's being a bit unreasonable. My parents are pretty well off. They live in a suburban area where it's pretty expected to keep up with the Joneses and show off with nice cars, spending a lot on a house and on entertaining, designer clothes, etc. But they don't have a lot of savings, and that stresses me out. Anyway, I am kind of the opposite. I'm living in an area that's kind of rough right now, driving an old truck, but it's close to my work and it's close to my friends' places. I'm saving a lot of doing all this. I've paid off my student loans already, and I'm saving for a house. My parents wanted to come visit the city I'm living in, and I said I'd host them at my apartment. But I said to leave the luxury cars behind and take the older sedan that they'd been using as a driving instruction car for me and my siblings. And I told them to not leave any valuables in the car, instead bring their things inside my apartment. And also, don't bring a large purse or backpack, and don't talk to strangers who approach you because they might try and pickpocket you. So my parents showed up in their 2018 Porsche, and my mom steps out with a huge designer handbag that doesn't close, except for a small snap closure on top. And I'm frustrated they didn't listen, but I tell them to come inside, being their things in, and I lend my mom a smaller handbag of mine. We went out for dinner, and when we come back, their car's been broken into. And my dad is freaking out because a bag of his things was stolen. I was frustrated because I'd said to not bring a flashy car and to not leave things in the car. But we go file a police report, and that takes up most of the night. I got snappy at my parents that night for not listening to one of the things I'd said, bringing their flashiest car when I'd said that was a bad idea, etc. And they got mad at me for having said that they probably won't see their stuff again. Am I the idiot? I didn't mean to make this trip such a mess. Not the idiot. You literally warned them and told them how to avoid this. They decide that their pride is more important and that they need to show off, otherwise, why even have all this expensive crap, right? Their blatant refusal to heed your advice put them in this mess. Like, every single piece of advice you gave was disregarded. OP, don't drive anything flashy. Shows up in new Porsche. Don't wear expensive bags. Shows up in a giant designer handbag that doesn't even close. Don't leave stuff in the car. Leaves expensive crap in the car. Fancy car gets broken into, expensive stuff taken. You told them exactly what to do to keep themselves and their things safe, and it sounds like they did literally everything you told them not to do. At the same time, I don't think they meant to make things harder for you, they were just oblivious, and, unfortunately, they paid the price for not listening to you. Also, you didn't make the trip a mess at all. It screws for all of you that it happened, but you did try to prevent something like this, and it's not your fault it happened. I hope the next visit goes better. No idiots here. Not the idiot for feeling upset. The advice you gave your folks is pretty much exactly what the police in my city tell people all the time in public meetings and on listservs. Almost all car break-ins are because there is something visible in the car. It might not be valuable, but the thief is going to check it out. I get where people are coming from, with "I told you so" isn't an appropriate response when someone is a victim. If mom and dad had gotten mugged, I'd feel this way. But the car break-in was entirely preventable.